Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel, Horizon, her eyes fixed on the massive alien ship that dwarfed her own. The moment humanity had both dreamed of and dreaded for centuries had finally arrived. First contact with an advanced alien civilization. The Horizon crew watched in stunned silence as the holographic display materialized in the center of the bridge, revealing a delegation of beings from the Galactic Confederation, representatives from 17 different species, each more alien than the last, their bodies ranging from vaguely humanoid to utterly bizarre geometries that challenged human perception. Initial communication proved surprisingly smooth thanks to the advanced translation algorithms developed by Dr. Anwar Singh, who had dedicated his life to creating a universal language protocol based on mathematical principles. The aliens seemed impressed by this achievement, offering cautious greetings and expressions of peaceful intent. Captain Chen felt a surge of pride as she stepped forward to represent humanity. This was the moment that would define our species in the cosmic community. Her carefully prepared speech, emphasizing cooperation and mutual discovery, seemed well received as the alien delegates nodded or made equivalent gestures with their varied appendages. The diplomatic exchange continued for nearly an hour, topics ranging from cultural introductions to basic astronomical knowledge, sharing everything proceeding more smoothly than even the most optimistic first contact scenarios had predicted, until the Confederation delegates requested a standard technological assessment. When the Confederation scanners activated, they immediately focused on the experimental quantum core powering the Horizon, the pride of human engineering that had made this deep space mission possible. Captain Chen noticed the immediate change in the aliens' body language, their movements becoming rigid appendages, twitching in what the crew xenobiologist later identified as alarm. The lead delegate, a tall crystalline being designated as Ambassador Zoth, abruptly cut off mid-sentence, its translator emitting a series of sharp tones that the human system could not process. The other delegates began rapid communications among themselves, their previously calm demeanors replaced with obvious agitation. Captain Chen attempted to explain the peaceful nature of the quantum technology, but the aliens had already begun retreating to their ship. Ambassador Zoth issued a final statement before terminating the connection. The quantum resonance signature matches the forbidden technology. Your species has unknowingly developed a variant of the world killer. Your existence presents an unacceptable risk to galactic security. Within minutes, the alien vessel had disappeared, leaving the Horizon crew in confused silence. The historical moment of first contact transformed into an ominous warning. 3 days later, as the Horizon rushed back toward Earth, the Quantum Communication Array received a system-wide broadcast from the Confederation, an ultimatum to all human settlements: dismantle all quantum technology and submit to Confederation oversight within one standard cycle or face protective quarantine measures. The United Earth government requested time to consider the demands, asking for clarification and dialogue. The Confederation responded with a demonstration of resolve. The lunar colony, home to 30,000 civilians, disappeared in a flash of light visible from Earth as billions watched in horror. Captain Chen, standing in the emergency session of the Global Defense Council, knew in that moment that humanity had unknowingly stepped into a cosmic minefield of ancient politics and fears they never could have anticipated. The biggest war in space was about to begin, and no one on Earth had any idea how outmatched they truly were. 6 months into the devastating war, humanity seemed hopelessly outmatched by Confederation technology. Their ships could appear virtually anywhere thanks to technology. Humans had no defense against their weapons, cut through Earth's most advanced shielding like tissue paper, and their automated systems operated with a precision that human reflexes couldn't hope to match. Major Eli Rice sat in the cramped command module of the stealth vessel Sparrow, watching the massive Confederation cruiser through specialized sensors designed to avoid detection. His 20-person strike team had trained for this mission for weeks, but the tension in the air was palpable. They all knew the survival rate for operations like this hovered around 30%. The mission was simple in concept, but nearly impossible in execution: capture an intact Confederation vessel and bring it back to Earth for study, the kind of desperate gamble that had become standard as humanity fought for its very existence. Major Rice gave the signal, and the Sparrow accelerated toward the Confederation ship, its experimental stealth technology, the work of Geir Amara O'Keefer holding steady as they approached the massive alien vessel looming ahead like a metallic leviathan. The boarding went smoothly at first, the Confederation security systems proving vulnerable to the targeted electromagnetic pulse the strike team had brought, but the alien crew responded with unexpected speed, security drones swarming the human intruders with devastating efficiency. Lieutenant Koshi died in the first counterattack. 3 more members of the strike team fell securing the engine room, but against all odds the remaining humans managed to neutralize the Confederation crew and take control of the vessel, though at terrible cost. Der Okafor arrived with the second wave of specialists, engineers, and scientists tasked with learning everything possible about the captured technology, working around the clock, while Major Rice and his remaining team provided security and attempted to decode the ship's navigation systems. 3 days into their analysis, Der Okafor called an emergency meeting. Her normally calm demeanor replaced with barely contained excitement as she led Major Reyes through the alien systems she had dismantled across the captured ship. The aliens' neural interfaces are vastly more advanced than anything we have developed, she explained as she displayed the intricate connections on a holographic display. But their actual problem-solving algorithms are shockingly rigid. They have better hardware, but terrible software. Major Rice didn't immediately grasp the significance until Der Okafor demonstrated how the Confederation targeting systems responded to simulated human evasive maneuvers. The alien technology was devastatingly effective against predictable patterns, but struggled with random human improvisations. The systems couldn't adapt to behavior that didn't follow logical optimization. Before they could fully explore this discovery, alarm notifications flashed throughout the captured ship. The Confederation had found them and dispatched a strike force to reclaim their vessel. With no time to finish their analysis, Major Rice made the call to evacuate the team and as much portable technology as they could carry. Der Okafor frantically downloading core system data before abandoning the ship, barely escaping before Confederation forces arrived. 2 weeks later, when Confederation forces attacked the human outpost on Europa, they encountered hastily reprogrammed defense systems that adapted to their attack patterns in real time, something their combat doctrine had no protocols for. The defenders, outnumbered 10-1, repelled the attack with minimal casualties. The footage of the Europa defense spread throughout the remaining human colonies, kindling hope. Where there had been only desperation for months, humanity had discovered something: their technologically superior enemies lacked cognitive flexibility and improvisation in the face of the unknown. As Major Rice watched Der Okafor present their findings to Earth's Unified Defense Council, he allowed himself to feel a glimmer of hope. For the first time since the war began, perhaps humanity wouldn't win through superior technology, but through the very unpredictability that the Confederation seemed to fear. The emergency alert blared through the Amazon restoration zone as sensors detected an unidentified craft entering Earth atmosphere. Guards and scientists at the research stations scrambled to defensive positions as the damaged Confederation scout ship streaked across the sky, trailing smoke and debris, before making a rough landing in a clearing 2 kilometers from the main facility. Captain Maya Rodriguez led the rapid response team approaching the crash site with weapons ready, expecting the typical fight to the death that had characterized most close encounters with Confederation forces since the war began. The smoking vessel bore the distinctive markings of an elite scout-class ship designed for reconnaissance and swift strikes. As the team established a perimeter around the crashed ship, the main hatch suddenly opened, causing the humans to raise their weapons in unison. But instead of an attack, a single figure emerged with upper limbs raised in what appeared to be a universal gesture of surrender. Science Officer Zex Terrell of the Confederation stood before the humans, his crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the sunlight in iridescent patterns, his translator device activating with a soft hum. "I request asylum," he stated, his voice synthesizer creating a strangely melodic human speech. "I bring truth that will change everything." The interrogation lasted for days as specialists from around the world examined the defector and his claims. Durjun Park, The leading xenolinguist headed the team tasked with ensuring accurate communication, while military intelligence attempted to determine if this was an elaborate Confederation trap. Under intensive questioning, Zex Terrell revealed the shocking truth about the war. The Confederation leadership had lied about humanity's quantum technology being the weapon. The real fear was that humans might discover what they called the Nexus, an alternate dimension the Confederation had secretly used for instantaneous travel between star systems. This nexus had been the source of their power for millennia, Zex Terrell explained, allowing them to maintain dominance over hundreds of worlds. Humanity's quantum experiments had come dangerously close to revealing this secret, prompting the preemptive attack. When asked why he had defected, Zex Terrell hesitated before revealing that he had been part of a research team studying humans before the war, his findings suggesting that humanity represented something unique in the galaxy, a species whose neural structure allowed for cognitive leaps that most Confederation species were incapable of making. "I believe your species could access the Nexus in ways we never imagined," he admitted, "and I could no longer participate in what I now see as the unjustified extinction of a remarkable species." Security protocols were immediately broken when video of Zex Terrell's testimony leaked across human networks, transforming the conflict from a defensive war to a race for the Nexus as hope spread that humanity might have a way to fight back against their technologically superior enemy. As the implications of his revelations were being processed, Dr. Park spent increasing time with Zex Terrell, learning about Confederation culture and biology, while teaching the alien about human customs. The two formed an unexpected bond that transcended their species differences. One evening, as they shared a meal, Dr. Park noticed Zex Terrell observing her laughter with intense fascination. He explained that emotional expressiveness was considered primitive within Confederation society, where logic and order were the highest virtues, yet he found human emotions fascinating rather than primitive, as his species doctrine taught. "I now understand why the High Council fears humanity," Zex Terrell told her. "You are capable of intuitive leaps that circumvent logical progression. Your species makes connections that would take us generations of careful study to discover." As military leaders formulated new strategies based on Zex Terrell's information, Dart Park realized that the cultural exchange happening between her and the alien might be just as important as the technical data he provided. Perhaps understanding each other was the first step toward a solution that transcended the war itself. Commander Nadia Volkov had never seen anything like the retrofitted Confederation vessel now under her command. The sleek alien craft, renamed Opportunity, hummed with power systems that Earth engineers were still struggling to fully understand. As she walked through the ship, running her hand along the strange metallic alloys that seemed almost alive under her touch. Armed with information from Zex Terrell, Earth had launched multiple expeditions to locations where dimensional thinning might allow access to the Nexus. The Opportunity led the most promising mission, carrying a diverse crew selected from the best minds across human colonies alongside their alien ally. Dr. Gabriel Dias checked the quantum core readings for the third time in an hour. The brilliant physicist had been working non-stop since being assigned to the mission, his theories about Nexus access driving him to the point of exhaustion as the Opportunity hid within the dense asteroid field. Pursuing Confederation forces had nearly caught them twice already, forcing the crew to run silent as 3 patrol cruisers searched the area, their superior sensors making discovery seem inevitable as the hours passed in tense silence. During this forced inactivity, Dr. Dias noticed something unusual in the sensor logs. Whenever their quantum core underwent specific stress patterns, there were unexplained energy fluctuations that seemed to briefly connect with something beyond normal space, something the Confederation sensors actively ignored, as if programmed to overlook these specific signatures. Without authorization, Dr. Dias began a series of increasingly dangerous experiments routing quantum core energy through different ship systems. While monitoring the strange fluctuations, Commander Volkov discovered his unauthorized tests and nearly shut them down until she saw the results herself. Zex Terrell observed these experiments with growing excitement, confirming that the energy patterns matched certain forbidden research his people had abandoned centuries ago, when the original discoverers of the Nexus established the Confederation and centralized all Nexus technology. After days of careful adjustments, Dirdias made a revolutionary discovery. The energy fluctuations intensified dramatically whenever humans were in close proximity to the core, their brainwave patterns somehow catalyzing the reaction in ways that Confederation species could not achieve. The implications were staggering. Humans might possess a natural ability to interact with the Nexus dimension, something the Confederation either lacked or had lost over millennia of technological dependence. This could explain the real reason behind their fear of humanity. As Dirdias prepared to present his findings to Commander Volkov, the ship sensors detected 3 Confederation dreadnoughts converging on their position, the massive warships closing fast, having finally located the human expedition, their weapons powering up for a coordinated strike. Commander Volkov ordered immediate evacuation preparations, but Dirdias begged for 5 more minutes to test one final theory. In a moment of desperate inspiration, he linked the ship's sensors directly to his neural implant, a dangerous modification that could kill him but might prove his hypothesis. The bridge crew watched in horror and fascination as Dirdias connected himself to the ship's systems, his body convulsing as alien technology merged with human neural patterns, the quantum core pulsing with never-before-seen energy configurations as alarms blared throughout the ship. The 3 Confederation dreadnoughts opened fire, their energy weapons creating a devastating convergence point where the opportunity had been moments before, but their target had vanished completely, sensors showing nothing but empty space where the human vessel should have been. Inside the Nexus dimension, Commander Volkov and her crew experienced reality unlike anything humans had ever known, colors that had no names in human language, geometries that defied Euclidean mathematics, and a sense of vast intelligence permeating everything around them. The opportunity had become the first human vessel to enter the Nexus dimension thanks to Dirdias, whose neural link had somehow activated the latent dimensional properties of the quantum core. The impossible had become possible through the unique combination of human consciousness and alien technology. As the crew recovered from the shock of transition, navigating through what seemed like an ocean of living light, Commander Volkov realized they had gained an advantage the Confederation never expected, and perhaps never truly understood. The biggest war in space had just entered a new phase where the rules of reality itself were suddenly negotiable. The opportunity emerged from the swirling energies of the Nexus dimension into normal space, the crew still disoriented from the transition. As reality reasserted itself around them, Commander Volkov stared in disbelief at the sensor readings. They had arrived deep within Confederation territory, mere light minutes from the capital world Hegemony Prime. The massive orbital structures surrounding the alien homeworld glittered like jewels against the darkness of space, home to the ruling council that had ordered humanity's destruction without warning or true negotiation. Security appeared minimal, the Confederation clearly never expecting any enemy to penetrate this far into their territory. Dirdias remained connected to the ship's systems, his consciousness existing partially in normal space and partially in the Nexus dimension, his eyes glowing with strange energies as he whispered coordinates and navigational data that shouldn't have been possible for him to know. Taking advantage of their unexpected arrival, Commander Volkov called the crew to action stations. They would have only one chance to strike a meaningful blow before the Confederation realized what had happened. Her plan was audacious, almost suicidal, but potentially war-changing if they succeeded. The opportunity approached the central communication hub disguised as a returning scout ship, using identification codes provided by Zex Terrell. The massive structure served as the primary broadcast center for all Confederation worlds, controlling the flow of information across thousands of star systems. Security forces initially cleared their approach before anomalies in their transmission patterns triggered alarms. By then it was too late. The humans had already dispatched their boarding team, led by Lieutenant Sato, an elite squad trained in zero-gravity combat and equipped with technology reverse-engineered from captured Confederation weapons. The battle for the communication hub was brief but intense. The skeleton crew of technicians, no match for trained human soldiers, while Commander Volkov maintained position outside ready to extract their team. Lieutenant Sato secured the central broadcast chamber, where Zex Terrell quickly interfaced with the alien systems. Working with frantic speed, they uploaded Zex Terrell's testimony and evidence of the Confederation leadership's deception across all broadcast channels. Throughout Confederation space, the truth about the war against humanity, the lies about the quantum technology, and the Council's fear of losing control of the Nexus. As alarms blared and reinforcements approached, Lieutenant Seto and his team fought their way back to the extraction point, losing 2 soldiers in the process, but successfully completing their mission. As they returned to the opportunity, Commander Volkov ordered immediate Nexus re-entry. Durdias guided them back into the dimensional corridor, just as Confederation warships converged on their position, the pursuing vessels firing blindly into the space where the human ship had been, but unable to follow as the opportunity slipped away through the Nexus. The revelation sparked chaos throughout Confederation space. 3 subject species, the mercantile Lyrax, the philosophical Muon collectives, and the warrior poet Kaderi, openly rebelled against Confederation authority. Centuries of resentment against the ruling species finding voice in this moment of revealed deception. Admiral Jensen of Earth's Defense Fleet leveraged this discord, establishing clandestine contacts with rebel leaders and coordinating a strategy of asymmetric warfare across multiple star systems. Suddenly, the Confederation found itself fighting on multiple fronts against enemies both external and internal. Meanwhile, aboard the Opportunity, Durdias and his team discovered something even more revolutionary about the Nexus. It responded to human intention in ways the Confederation never imagined possible, allowing not just travel but manipulation of energy and matter within the dimension itself. As human forces began using this knowledge to launch hit-and-run attacks from within the Nexus, the tide of war shifted dramatically, humanity transforming from hunted prey to the catalyst for a galactic revolution that threatened the foundations of Confederation power. Commander Volkov, standing on the bridge of the Opportunity as it traveled between dimensions, reflected on how quickly everything had changed in just weeks. The seemingly invincible enemy had been revealed as vulnerable, their power built on secrets and suppression rather than true technological superiority. The biggest war in space had become a war of ideas. Dr. Maya Kimura had never considered herself a warrior. The xenolinguist had spent her career studying theoretical communication models for potential alien encounters. Now, she found herself aboard the research vessel Prometheus, deep in contested space, as the war expanded across hundreds of star systems. 6 months after the Opportunity breakthrough, the conflict had transformed into a complex, multifaceted struggle as Confederation unity fractured and human forces coordinated with rebel species to strike at strategic targets throughout known space. Yet despite these gains, the core Confederation worlds remained formidable, their technological advantage still significant despite humanity's Nexus innovations. Dr. Kimura led a small team analyzing captured Confederation technology, in particular the underlying programming language of their systems. While studying alien linguistics, she had noticed patterns that suggested all Confederation technology shared common command structures dating back millennia. Working through countless sleepless nights, she made an astonishing discovery. The ancient programming language underlying Confederation technology contained fundamental vulnerabilities that no one had ever exploited, not through lack of capability, but because no species had ever approached the code with human perspectives on language and meaning. Her breakthrough allowed human forces to hack and disable enemy weapons remotely, creating what Earth Command called digital insurgency across Confederation space, the ruling species suddenly finding their technological superiority neutralized by human ingenuity. On the Confederation side, Fleet Commander Orux emerged as their most effective strategist, the tall, sinuous alien abandoning traditional Confederation military doctrine to adopt tactics that mimicked human unpredictability, his adaptive approach earning respect, even from his enemies, as he managed to repel attacks that had overwhelmed his peers. The war reached a stalemate as both sides developed countermeasures against the others, innovations, the human Nexus technology, matched by Orux, increasingly effective anti-Nexus field generators, the conflict settling into a grueling war of attrition that threatened to last decades. The turning point came unexpectedly when Fleet Commander Oryx flagship Dominant Will became stranded in a remote system after a battle with rebel forces, a catastrophic drive failure leaving them vulnerable as a dangerous solar storm approached the system. Despite standing orders to ignore Confederation distress calls, Dr. Chimera's research vessel Prometheus was the only ship close enough to render assistance before the solar storm hit the xenolinguist, making the controversial decision to answer the call despite the risk of capture or destruction. As the Prometheus approached the damaged Confederation vessel, tense communications established minimal trust. Commander Oryx reluctantly accepting human assistance while preparing his crew for possible treachery, the solar storm growing in intensity as radiation levels rose to dangerous levels. The two brilliant minds, Dr. Chimera and Commander Oryx, worked together over the next 72 hours to save both vessels from destruction, the human linguistic expert and the alien tactician, finding unexpected common ground in their approach to problem-solving, despite representing opposing sides in the devastating conflict. During their collaboration, Dr. Chimera shared her perspective on why humanity had survived against overwhelming odds. "We don't think like you do," she explained, "while reconfiguring shield harmonics. Our strength is superior technology, but our cognitive diversity. We approach problems from angles your unified culture never considers." Commander Oryx revealed his own heretical thoughts that had earned him suspicion among Confederation leadership. "Perhaps our species' greatest error was enforcing uniformity of thought for millennia. The very stability we prized became our greatest vulnerability when faced with a truly different perspective." Their successful cooperation in surviving the solar storm became known throughout both human and Confederation space as the Chimera-Oryx Accord, the first real foundation for peace negotiations, even as the war continued to rage across the stars. Meanwhile, Earth developed a revolutionary defense system based on Nexus technology, creating dimensional shields that made key human worlds virtually impregnable against conventional Confederation weapons. This defensive advantage created space for diplomacy as more Confederation species questioned the wisdom of continuing the increasingly costly conflict. As Dr. Chimera returned to Earth, hailed as both hero and traitor for her actions, she carried with her something no one expected: the beginning of understanding between enemies that might eventually end the biggest war in space, not through total victory, but through recognition of each other's fundamental value. The neutral world of Proxima Centauri glowed blue and green beneath the diplomatic station, where peace talks had tentatively begun. Representatives from Earth stood across from Confederation delegates in the first official negotiation since the war began. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez leading the human contingent, while Commander Oryx represented the fractured but still powerful Confederation. 2 years of devastating conflict had left both sides exhausted, resources depleted, populations weary of constant sacrifice, yet progress remained slow as centuries of Confederation protocol clashed with human impatience and suspicion. The gap between their perspectives still vast despite the Chimera-Oryx Accord that had made these talks possible. Zex Terrell, now serving as intermediary between the species, worked tirelessly to find common ground, his understanding of both cultures proving invaluable as they navigated the complex diplomatic process while examining historical records to establish a framework for lasting peace. During one such research session, Ambassador Rodriguez and Zex Terrell discovered ancient data buried deep in Confederation archives, references to beings called the Architects, who had allegedly created the Confederation itself thousands of years ago. The information fragmentary, but suggesting a deliberate suppression of historical truth. Further investigation revealed shocking evidence that changed everything. The Architects had disappeared as official history claimed. They had instead evolved into energy beings who existed primarily within the Nexus dimension, continuing to manipulate both the Confederation and later humanity from the shadows. The Nexus wasn't just a transportation system, but a vast network that somehow sustained these ascended beings, their existence dependent on maintaining the current power structure and preventing the development of technologies that might disrupt their control, especially human innovations that interacted with the Nexus in unpredictable ways. When Ambassador Rodriguez presented this evidence to the assembled delegates, the reaction was immediate, and dramatic ancient security protocols, activated throughout the station as hidden systems designed to prevent exactly this discovery, came online. Commander Oryx, recognizing the truth as Confederation historical prophecies suddenly aligned with human findings. The peace conference erupted into chaos as energy beings materialized within the chamber, their forms shifting and unstable as they moved between dimensions, confirming the most incredible aspects of the theory. "We have guided your species for millennia," one of them announced, their voice resonating directly in the minds of all present. "Your war is meaningless, a test we arranged to measure human potential." Both human and Confederation representatives reacted with unified outrage at this revelation. Centuries of conflict, deaths in the millions, civilizations manipulated, all for the entertainment or research of beings who'd abandoned their responsibility to the galaxy yet maintained control through deception and fear. In an unprecedented moment, Commander Oryx moved to stand beside Ambassador Rodriguez as representatives of other species joined them, a spontaneous alliance forming against these hidden manipulators. "We reject your guidance," he declared, speaking for all present. "Your time as our unseen masters ends today." The architects responded with devastating force, the station defenses turning against their occupants as the energy beings demonstrated power accumulated over millennia. Only the quick action of Daridias, who had continued his Nexus research, enabled the emergency evacuation of the diplomatic team, his emerging abilities to manipulate Nexus energy, creating a temporary shield against the architects' attacks. In the aftermath of what became known as the Proxima betrayal, former enemies found common cause against these hidden manipulators, Commander Oryx and Admiral Jensen, forging an unprecedented military alliance, while Daridias and Confederation scientists collaborated on weapons effective against beings that existed partially in the Nexus dimension. Humanity and Confederation species shared all technology and knowledge previously kept secret, understanding that only together could they hope to challenge the architects, whose influence now seemed to explain countless historical conflicts and technological stagnation designed to maintain control. The final battle would take place not in physical space, but within the Nexus itself, where human intuition and Confederation precision together might accomplish what neither could achieve alone: freedom from the architect's influence and a truly self-determined future for all species. As preparations intensified across human and Confederation worlds, Dr. Kimura reflected that the biggest war in space had never truly been between their species at all, but against hidden masters who'd prevented true progress for millennia, the real enemy finally revealed. 1 year after the architect conflict, representatives from Earth and 27 former Confederation species gathered on the orbital platform New Horizon, its crystalline structure floating serenely above a newly terraformed world that belonged to no single species, but to all. The gathered delegates stood in the Grand Chamber as the final articles of the Galactic Concord were prepared for signing. The defeat of the architects had not come easily or without sacrifice. Thousands of ships, both human and alien, had entered the Nexus dimension in a coordinated assault against beings that had manipulated civilizations for millennia. Daridias leading the charge with his unparalleled ability to navigate and shape Nexus energies. The battle within the Nexus defied conventional description, taking place across dimensions of reality that most beings could barely comprehend, yet the combined forces had prevailed: human intuition and Confederation precision, working in harmony to accomplish what neither could have achieved alone. The architect's influence finally broken after countless ages. Captain Sarah Chen, whose first contact mission had inadvertently started the war, now stood as one of the chief architects of peace, her understanding of both human and alien perspectives proving invaluable during the complex negotiations that followed victory. The woman who had witnessed the first shots of the conflict now watching its final resolution. Unlike the hierarchical Confederation, the new Galactic Concord was founded on principles of technological sharing, cultural exchange, and mutual defense, each species maintaining autonomy while contributing their unique strengths to the alliance. Species that had once sought to exterminate each other now finding common purpose in rebuilding a galaxy free from manipulation. The quantum nexus technology, now safely developed without the architect's interference, ushered in an unprecedented era of exploration and prosperity, allowing civilizations to travel instantaneously between worlds and share resources in ways previously unimaginable. Admiral Jensen, now serving as Earth's representative to the Concord Council, reflected on how differently things had turned out from what anyone could have predicted at the wars. Beginning, we expected to fight for survival, he commented to Commander Oryx. Instead, we fought for freedom, not just our own, but for every species in the galaxy. The signing ceremony began with traditional rituals from each world, representatives approaching the central crystal matrix that would store the Concord Agreement in a format accessible to all member species, a physical manifestation of their shared commitment. Captain Chen and Sex Terrell, who had formed a deep friendship through their shared experiences, approached the platform together. In the most poignant moment of the ceremony, they carried with them symbols from their respective homeworlds, a sapling oak tree from Earth, and a luminescent crystal formation from the Confederation capital. Together, they placed these items in the station's biodome, where they would grow side by side, a living monument to how different life forms could thrive together given the right conditions, the simple gesture moving many of the assembled delegates to expressions of emotion that would have been unthinkable before the war. As final preparations completed for the inaugural mission of the exploration vessel Unity, Captain Chen took command of the ship, whose crew comprised humans and former Confederation species working together, their mission to venture beyond the boundaries of known space, seeking new civilizations and phenomena with their combined knowledge and perspectives. Standing on the bridge as the countdown to departure began, Captain Chen looked at her diverse crew. With pride, humanity had entered the galactic community through conflict, but would now proceed through cooperation, the greatest war in space, having transformed into the greatest peace. The Unity disappeared into the Nexus, its journey representing something no one could have foreseen when the conflict began, humanity finding itself not as conquerors or victims, but as catalysts for a more dynamic, adaptive, and united galactic civilization that valued diversity of thought as its greatest strength against whatever challenges awaited in the vast unknown.